eyes work. Damn. I can open it. Anyway, good evening and welcome to Mo's channel. We are in the midst of the greatest fucking bullshit imaginable. Never in my motherfucking wildest dreams did I even think I'd witness bullshit like this. The U.S. You've heard the term ghost town. I want to introduce you to the term ghost nation. America has become a fucking ghost nation. If Osama bin Laden, Allahu Akbar, all praises due to Muhammad, the prophet of Allah, the last prophet. If Osama bin Laden had been alive today, he would have killed himself. They say Osama had as his motive the objective to destroy the American way of life. Well, Mr. Osama bin Laden, nephew of Saddam Hussein, cousin of Barack Saddam Hussein bin Laden Obama, the first terrorist president of the United States of America, who created ISIS and created Al-Qaeda and created the PLO and created terrorism and killed millions of Americans, some of whom were not born, some of whom were dead, but Barack Obama killed all of them. If Osama bin Laden had been alive today, he would have been pissed off at his fucking self. Why the fuck did I fly all those airplanes, if I did, into these buildings to only kill 3,000 Americans and just scare the shit out of them for a few months? Mr. Osama, you could have just released a biological agent and scared the goddamn fucking shit out of all Americans. Why waste your time flying planes into buildings, Mr. Osama? My God. My fucking God. Americans are dumb as fucking shit. Our government is dumber than fucking goddamn motherfucking shit. If that motherfucker is dead, I know he's rolling over in his grave, pat, pat, hitting himself. Why did I think of that? So here's the deal, my fellow Americans. Here's the deal. I am going to talk to you with facts, not emotions, not propaganda, not hyperbole. Because all of these stupid shit motherfuckers that are on the news, on CNN, on Fox News, on MSNBC, on NBC, on Frontline, and Nightline, and blah, 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 fucking shit, blah. All of these politicians, all of these experts have one and only one motherfucking purpose. And they are doing one hell of a fucking job. They are scaring the goddamn motherfucking shit out of you. Everywhere I go, all these Americans, men and women, wearing little panties. I smell doo-doo. 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 Because all these shit Americans are shitting in their panties. And they stink like doo-doo. So, I'm going to break it down. And I'm going to start with a science lesson. This video will be threefold. Number one, reality. Scientific reality. Number two, personal responsibility. Number three, government responsibility. There is no fucking need for this bullshit that is taking place. Because I'm pissed, motherfucker. I'm pissed. I can't go to the gym. I don't give a fuck about no malls. I don't give a fuck about hanging out. I don't give a fuck about socialization. Because most of these shit motherfuckers, I don't want to socialize with anyway. They dumb as fucking hell. What I care about is being able to go out there to a job and make fucking money. I don't want no handout. I don't want the government to give me $1,000 check. I don't want to collect unemployment. Why, motherfucker? I got 2 eyes I could see. I got 2 ears I could hear. I got 2 feet, 2 hands I could move. Why the fuck should the government give me a check when I could take my ass out there and work a job and earn my fucking money? I don't want no handout, motherfucker. Because of your stupid shit, Mr. Government, I can't go out there and work. Now I gotta sit and wait for you to give me a check? What next? You gonna burp me? You gonna feed me? You gonna take me to the shitter so I could take a shit and then wipe my ass? Nah, motherfucker. The lazy motherfuckers, they want that shit. I don't want that shit. I want to earn my money. Since the age of fucking 14 years old, nobody has given me shit. I have earned every fucking thing I have. I earned my spot as a starter on the basketball team, the soccer team, the football team, the baseball team. In high school and in college. And if I would have gone pro, I would have earned my spot as a professional. I don't need no fucking handouts. What the fuck is this shit? So let's get to facts, motherfucker. Virus, virus, virus. Virus, virus, virus. Virus, virus, virus. The evil fucking virus is coming to get you. Run and hide. Run and hide. Run and hide. The virus is coming for you, bitch. Let's go to science, motherfucker. I know a lot of you don't understand science because a lot of you are dumb as fucking shit. You wait for some dumb little shit motherfucking expert on CNN to tell you shit when you could go out there, get a fucking book, go to YouTube, go to Google, Yahoo, whatever search engine you want to use, and pull up virus and learn that shit for your fucking self, you lazy bitch. Do you need to be spoon-fed for the rest of your fucking life? I'm tired of dumb motherfuckers. I'm tired of lazy motherfuckers. Fuck all of you. Let's talk about sense. Let's talk about science. We are living things. A cockroach is a living thing. Grass is a living thing. A tree is a living thing. A whale is a living thing. A dinosaur is a living thing. A dragon is a living thing. A unicorn is a living thing. A rock is dead. A rock is dead. A table is dead. A glass is dead. But what's in the glass, the wine, it might be living. Why? Why? The air around me might be living. Why? Because they contain bacteria. Bacteria are single-cell organisms. You and I are multi-cell organisms. A cockroach is a multi-cell organism. What makes you? What makes a cockroach? What makes a bacteria living is the cell. The cell is the smallest living organism. What makes a cell living? Two things. I'd say three, but not all cells have motility, which is mobility. So I'd say two things. Number one, the ability to process functional inputs such as nitrogen, molecules, nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen to generate energy for the purpose of growth. Number two, the ability to reproduce, where one cell becomes two cells, becomes four cells, becomes 8 cells, and so forth. Exponential growth. That is what differentiates you from a rock. If I take a bacteria and I put it right here, and I come back, conditions being appropriate, and I come back 2 weeks later, that one bacteria would now be 1,000,000 bacteria. If I take a fucking rock and I put it here, and I come back 10 years later, that one rock will be one rock. So let's understand what this cell thing is. Essentially, a cell is an entity surrounded by a membrane, usually a lipid bilayer. What I mean by lipid, it's a fatty acid comprised of carbon and hydrogen molecules covalently bonded. When I say covalent, I mean that on the outer shell of each of these atoms, because a stable atom has 8 electrons in its outer shell. So if I have an atom, such as carbon, that might have 4 electrons in its outer shell, what they might call its valence shell, and I have another atom, such as hydrogen, which has 1 electron in its outer shell, and given that hydrogen only has 1 electron, to stabilize that inner shell of hydrogen would require 2 electrons. So if this carbon atom mates with 4 hydrogen atoms, then at the end of the day, that carbon atom has 8 electrons on its valence shell, and that hydrogen atom, each of those 4 hydrogen atoms, have 2 electrons on their outer shell. Hence, the carbon atom is now stable, the 4 hydrogen atoms are now stable, and you have a molecule called methane, CH4, 1 carbon and 4 hydrogens. That's stability. So a cell has its outer membrane. Within that outer membrane, you have a fluid medium called the cytoplasm. Now within the cytoplasm, you have the nucleus. And the nucleus contains all the genetic coding material for that cell, the DNA or RNA. Within the cytoplasm, you have several different entities, such as the mitochondria, which is responsible for generating the energy the cell needs to power its biochemical processes. At the end of the day, a cell is like a little factory, a tiny, 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 tiny little factory that produces energy and divides to grow. The process of cell division involves the splitting up or the creation of identical pairs of DNA material. Those identical pairs are then sent to the polar ends of the cell. Once that happens, a nucleus envelopes. So you start off with one nucleus within the cell. That nucleus has genetic material, DNA. That DNA then shortens, and you have spindles that form from the top to the bottom of the cell. The shortened DNA then attaches to those spindles. It then replicates. So you now have one set of DNA that becomes 2 sets of DNA. One set of DNA goes up, the other set goes down. A nucleus is formed around both sets of DNA, and then through the process called mitosis, the cell splits into 2, with each new cell having an identical set of DNA as the original cell. Now you have 2 cells. Down the road, each of those 2 cells will split into 2 cells. So now you have 4 cells. Each of those 4 cells splits into 2 cells, so now you have 8 cells, and on and on and on and on and on. Within your body, you have probably billions of cells. In your eye, you have cells. In your nose, you have cells. On your tongue, you have cells. In your ear, you have cells. Your hair is comprised of cells. Your skin is comprised of cells. Your heart is comprised of cells. These different cells have specialized functions. And that specialization is controlled by the DNA in each of those cells. So the DNA in the cells that form your epidermis, which is your skin, is different than the DNA in the cells that form your brain, the neurons. Is different than the DNA that forms the cells in your eyes. Is different than the DNA in the cells that forms your heart. Through the process called transcription. Because DNA is just encoding directions of how that cell should function, should replicate, and should structure itself. So through that DNA, through transcription, which is directions for the child cells on how to form themselves, the cells form different proteins. And the proteins are basically derived from amino acids, which is simply comprised of nitrogen and hydrogen molecules aligned in different manners to result in different specializations for the different cells. A bunch of cells working together form tissue. A bunch of tissues put together form an organ. So the organ, which is your liver, is comprised of different tissues, which are comprised of different cells than the organ, which is your heart. Now, in the process of living, if we look at a human being, you have different systems. The systems are your body. These systems working together form your body. You have the cardiovascular system. Some may call it the pulmonary thoracic system, and I understand that. I would understand that because pulmonary has to do with your lungs, with your nasal cavities, your thoracic tract, which is your throat, which brings in oxygen, feeds it to the lungs, expels carbon dioxide. When your heart sends a major vessel with deoxygenated blood into your lungs, through hemoglobin, which are the red blood cells in your blood system, the blood vessels are porous. So the oxygen in your lungs is absorbed through the walls of the capillaries, and it binds to the hemoglobin, making it red. So when you see red blood, it has oxygen. When you see blue blood, it lacks oxygen. That oxygenated blood is then passed through your body. First, it passes through your digestive tract, your stomach, and your small intestine, which are richly lined with blood vessels. So you eat food, you chew the food, break it down, send it down to your belly. Your belly goes through a process which decomposes that food into nutrients. And these nutrients, for the most part, are molecular in structure. Amino acids, simple, complex sugars, and lipids, fatty acids. When the blood vessels pass through your digestive tract, filled with oxygen, because they just came out of the lungs, these nutrients are absorbed through osmosis, which is just simply a process by which materials can flow across a porous membrane to another center. So they flow from your digestive tract across the membrane that forms your capillaries and are absorbed or deposited into your blood. They then flow. That blood then flows through your entire body. And as it is flowing through your body, it is passing through the different cells in your body. As it passes through those cells, once again through osmosis, the oxygen and the molecular nutrients are transferred to the cell. The cell then takes these nutrients and performs biochemical processes on these nutrients. The fuel that powers these biochemical processes is oxygen. Now, these biochemical processes might involve taking the nitrogen and hydrogen, the amines, to create new proteins. And the proteins are essential for cell function. It might involve extracting the lipids and reinforcing the cell membrane, which is formed of bilipid acids or lipid acids, a bilipid layer. It might involve taking the carbon molecules to power the ATP phase to generate energy for the cell to function. Now, I think I mentioned cell division and cell growth. So at a molecular, cellular level, that is how your body functions. Now, any nation will have enemies. And the enemies want to attack that nation and conquer it. All right? In the days of old, in Europe, we had castles. And what the castle was a fortification, a big wall built around the compound, such that if an enemy wanted to attack you, the occupier of that castle, they would have to breach the castle walls. Once they breached the castle walls, they were inside, and your defenses were significantly diminished. As living organisms, we have two attackers. We have bacteria and we have viruses. Now, to be fair, not all bacteria are bad bacteria. Not all viruses are bad viruses. When I say bad, I reference the concept of ill intent. When a bacteria attacks you and has you shitting all day and throwing up and having a fever and dying, that's a bad bacteria. The same for a bad virus. When a bacteria sits in your belly and helps you catalyze the process of digestion, that's a good bacteria. And there are good viruses that don't harm you. So when you're out there and you run across a bacteria or a virus, don't be mean to it. It might be a friendly virus or a friendly bacteria. Ask it, what's your purpose? If it says my purpose is to fuck you up, all right, get a gun. Pop, 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 pop. Kill that bacteria, kill that virus. If it's friendly, say, come on, man. Get in there, bitch. Help me out. Got me? The way a bacteria attacks your body. See, understand one thing. A virus is dead. All viruses are dead. If I have a virus in my hand, it's dead. It's not living. It's worthless. It can't reproduce on its own. Bacteria, on the other hand, are living things. They're cells. So if I put 1,000 bacteria over here, or over here, so you can see what I'm talking about, and I come back in 3 months, there'll probably be 1 million bacteria. If I put one virus here, I put 1 billion viruses there. And I come back in 1 month, there'll probably be 0 viruses because they're all dead. A virus needs a host cell to reproduce. A bacteria does not. Now, how does a bacteria attack you? Well, a bacteria gets into your body, and if it has malintent, it destroys the healthy cells in your body and becomes the dominant element in your body. So it takes all the healthy cells, pop, 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 kills all of them, and now it owns your fucking body. A virus, on the other hand, attaches to a healthy cell. It then penetrates into that healthy cell, and it then goes into the nucleus of the healthy cell. Now the nucleus contains all the DNA and RNA for that cell, which enables that cell to replicate. So once the virus gets into the nucleus of that healthy cell, it then causes that healthy cell, instead of replicating its DNA to produce additional cells like itself, that healthy cell will now consume or assume the genetic material of that virus, such that within that healthy cell, it now becomes a factory for generating the building blocks, not the virus, but the building blocks of that virus. Think of Lego. You have little blocks and you can build a tower. One little block is not a tower, but you put a bunch of little blocks together and you have a tower. So the nucleus of that cell, once penetrated by the genetic material of that virus now starts producing little Lego blocks of that virus. Once a sufficient number of Lego blocks have been produced, they start to combine to now create additional viruses. Once enough viruses have been replicated, they now destroy the cellular wall of that cell. Once you destroy the cellular wall of a cell, that cell ceases to exist. That is one of the primary ways you kill a bacteria. When you have an infected area and you spray an antibacterial agent on that infected area, such as bleach, and bleach is comprised of hydrochloric acid. The chlorine in that hydrochloric acid breaks down the cellular membrane of that cell. So if you're dealing with a bacteria, the chlorine breaks down the cell wall of that bacteria. And once you do that, the cytoplasm, which is a fluid within that cellular wall which contains all the living elements of that bacteria, then spills out, and that cell is dead. So when you have so many viruses replicated within that cell and it ruptures the cell wall, that cell is dead. Once that cell wall is ruptured, those viruses then go out and attach to other cells, penetrate those cells, and the same process takes place over and over and over again, such that at the end of the day, your once healthy body is now consumed by viruses. Let's think about this for a second. You have 1,000 cells right here. I introduce one, not 10, not 20, not 1,000, not 1,000,000. I introduce one virus into this environment with 1,000 cells. That one virus penetrates one cell. That one cell produces 10 viruses, and it breaks. Once it breaks, those 10 viruses then attach to 10 different cells. They penetrate those 10 cells. So now we had one cell, it's gone. Now these 10 viruses penetrate 10 cells. Those 10 cells each replicate 10 viruses. So now I have 100 viruses. Those 100 viruses then attach to 100 different cells, and they penetrate them. Each of those 100 cells then replicate 10 viruses. Now I have 1,000 viruses. I got 900 cells left. Those 1,000 viruses then penetrate 900 cells. Do you see what I'm saying? one virus turns into 1,000 viruses. An ecosystem with 1,000 cells after 2 cycles now has 0 healthy cells. If you need cells in your heart to control the beating of your heart, and I kill all of those cells, guess what? Your heart no longer beats. No longer. You're a dead motherfucker. Now, the reality is that the majority of cells in your body have a very, very short lifespan, likely in the order of minutes or hours or at most days. Your cells are constantly dying and reproducing, dying and reproducing. So, if I have 1,000 cells, let's go back to that 1,000 cell environment, and no viruses, no bacteria, no infections, and I have 1,000 cells. And let's say each of these cells has a shelf life of 1 day. So in 1 day, the 1,000 cells that I started off with at 1 minute past midnight, at 59 minutes past 11 p.m., all of those cells are dead. Lacking the process of cell reproduction through mitosis, that organism comprised of 1,000 cells would cease to exist. But given cell replication, as one cell dies, a new cell is born because of mitosis. I start with 1 cell, it becomes 2 cells. So when the original cell dies, I still have a cell. That 1 cell that was born out of that original cell now becomes 2 cells. So when it dies, I still have another cell. As you get older, the process of cell replication slows down. That's why you have organ failure. That's why you have wrinkles. That's why you have decreased eyesight. That's why you have decreased hearing. That's why you have osteoporosis, where the bones get weaker, because everything about you is comprised of living cells. Your bones are living cells. Your skin, your nails, your teeth are living cells. When those cells are not reproducing at a rate sufficient to replace the dying cells, you start aging. Aging is simply the process wherein the body is not producing sufficient replacement cells to offset the dying cells. So if we go back to the process of viral infection, if I have 1,000 cells and 500 are infected by the virus, so 500 are dying, but I still have 500 that are reproducing and that are healthy, then over time, even though I lost 500 cells, these good 500 can replace those bad 500. So it's still good. If I'm an older person, this is why viral infections, bacterial infections, have a greater adverse effect on older people. then I have 1,000 cells, 500 die off, but these 500 only produced 200. So I'm still deficient 300 cells. The organ needs 1,000 cells to perform effectively. But if I only have 700, let's take the lung, I can't breathe as well because I'm lacking 300 cells. The next day, the virus hits another 200. Now I only have 500. The next day, I only have 300. Then I only have 100. Soon, I can't breathe because I don't have sufficient cells to perform that function. So it's affecting older people, not because they're old, but because the rate of cell replacement is not sufficient. It's affecting people with illness because the level of cell replication is hindered by that illness. So you have to understand how a virus operates and what a virus does to the body and how the virus affects the body. Now, how do we attack a virus? As mentioned, the focus of attacking a bacterial infection is antibiotics. What the antibiotics do is they disrupt the metabolic process of the bacteria. Hence, they kill the bacteria, but they do not disrupt the metabolic process of normal cells. So they kill the bacteria, but they don't kill the healthy cells. Now, how do antiviral drugs work? The antiviral drugs, remember what's happening in a virus, is going into the nucleus and causing that cell to reproduce viruses. So there's two things you could do. You could target infected cells and kill them off. We go back to 1,000 cells. 200 are infected. And those 200 are spitting off viruses that will go infect other cells. So if I could kill off those infected cells, then all of a sudden that virus-producing machinery is destroyed. So that ecosystem with 200 infected cells, all of a sudden those infected cells are gone. There are no more viruses being produced in that ecosystem. So those 800 cells will no longer be attacked. Now, over time, it is a hope that those 800 cells will reproduce an additional 200 cells that will take place of those 200 dead cells. That's one thing you could do. You could also step through the virus process. You know it's going to attach to a healthy cell. So what you might do is to find a way to prevent the attachment of that virus to that healthy cell. It binds to proteins on the outer membrane of that healthy cell. If you could identify the proteins that this virus binds to and somehow disrupt that mechanism or shield those proteins, then you have a virus that can't bind to a cell and hence can't infect it. Another step you could take: once that virus penetrates that cell membrane, it's now heading to that cell nucleus. So if you could identify the DNA, the genetic material that identifies that virus, and then get into that cell, and before that virus gets to the nucleus, target anything with that genetic material, because a virus is basically an entity which is surrounded by a protein membrane, and within that protein membrane is a nucleic acid, which is the genetic material of that virus. So if you could identify what comprises that nucleic acid for that virus, and then inject an agent within that cell that will target anything that has that signature for elimination, given that that signature is different than the DNA of that host cell, then you could kill that virus before it even gets to the nucleus of that cell and hence replicates. So, attack it before it attaches to the cell. Attack it once it's penetrated that cell and working its way to the nucleus. Or attack cells that now serve as factories for making that virus. A virus, as I've stated, does not replicate wholesale. It uses the whole cell to produce building blocks that, when put together, create that virus. So if you could find a way to attack those building blocks, it's infected the cell is now reproducing those building blocks. If you could kill those building blocks, then the virus cannot assemble. If the virus cannot assemble, then the virus cannot replicate and destroy that cell and spread. So these are the steps you take to combat a virus. Now, the truth is, every day we intake billions upon billions upon billions of viruses. There's viruses all over us. All over, all around. They're viruses. But not all of them impact us in a negative way. A lot of viruses just pass through us because they don't have the proteins to bind to our cells. It might be animal viruses, plant viruses, but they don't affect us because the signatures of those viruses do not correspond to the signatures of the proteins in our cell walls. So that's how you handle viruses. That's how you eliminate viruses. Now, let's move on. We know what a virus is. We know how the body operates. Viruses have different means of transmission. Some viruses are distributed through the air. You breathe it in. Breathing is an active function. If I sit here and I do this, hold air out of my nose and out of my mouth for a prolonged period of time, I'm not taking in any air. What does that mean? It means that if I do that for a long time, I'm probably gonna die. Because I'm a stupid shit motherfucker. Because I need to take in air to live. But what I'm saying is, if a virus is transmitted aerially, what they might say aerosol, then I have to breathe in that air to intake that virus. When I breathe in that air, now remember, a virus is a microscopic particle on the order of 20 microns to nanometers. You cannot see it. When I breathe in that particle, when I breathe in, the air goes into my lungs. When the blood passes out of my heart deoxygenated and flows through my lungs, the capillaries consume the oxygen in my lungs and bind to the hemoglobin. When they consume that oxygen, they consume with it any nanoparticles or micron particles, which could be as small as or smaller than the oxygen molecule. As that blood then passes through my body, those nanoparticles are released into my system along with the oxygen. If amongst those nanoparticles are viruses, then those viruses are now introduced into my cell system. So, when they say maintain a minimum of 5 to 6 feet from another person in front of you, to the side of you, and behind you. They say that because if I'm within 3 feet of you and you breathe out and you have those viruses in your system, that air that you breathe out might have 1 billion viruses. When I breathe that air in, I am intaking those viruses and introducing them to my bloodstream, which will introduce them to the cells in my body. But when I'm more than 6 feet away from you, what happens is, when you breathe out around you, there are many molecules that comprise air: hydrogen, helium, oxygen, carbon molecules, oxygen molecules, water molecules, carbon dioxide molecules, carbon monoxide molecules, ions, oxygen ions, helium ions, hydrogen ions, carbon ions. If I'm 6 feet away from you, number one, what I breathe out is more dispersed. Number two, what I breathe out is bombarded by ions, such that I might have a virus over here and an oxygen ion comes along and knocks it out. So that virus never reaches you. So it is critical. It is critical that we maintain a distance between each other. If you're standing on the sidewalk, crossing the street, maintain 6 feet between all people in front, to the side, and behind of you. If you're in a grocery store buying shit and you're standing in the checkout line, stand 6 feet behind the person in front of you. When you get to the checkout counter and you're dealing with a cashier, look away from them. You look away from them so when you breathe, your air goes that way. It doesn't go towards them. This will go a tremendous way in curtailing the spread of this virus. Viruses are dead. So if I got a surface and I populate that surface with viruses, and you come along and you touch that surface, and you touch that surface, those viruses in your hand are harmless. They are harmless. However, because remember this, a virus ain't shit until it penetrates a cell, a living cell. It then uses the biochemical processes of that living cell to reproduce itself. So I could have a billion fucking I could have a trillion, a zillion viruses on my hands. But if I never touch my nose, such that I could inhale those viruses and introduce them to my bloodstream, I never touch my tongue, I never touch my eyes, because within your eyes you have a lot of capillaries and you have fluid in your eyes. So if I touch my eyes, that fluid serves as a medium to transport those viruses to the capillaries in my eyes, hence introducing that virus to my bloodstream. So if you're somewhere on a bus, in a public building, any venue, and you touch a surface, this is why they say do not touch your face. Because if I touch an infected surface and I touch my eyes, my nose, my mouth, I've now introduced that virus to my body. But if I touch a surface and I clean my hands after touching that surface, then the probability of introducing that virus to my body is significantly diminished. Significantly. Simple rules, people. Simple fucking rules. I know social media has turned Americans into a bunch of insecure little shit bitches who have this insane need to bunch together. I know you're insecure little motherfuckers. You're lonely little motherfuckers. You can't stand to go somewhere and stand alone, isolated from other people. I know you little shit motherfuckers think you might die if you gotta stand somewhere alone. I see you. You gotta go bunch up. Little insecure bitches. It's time to grow some balls. Or if you're women, it's time to grow some ovaries. Fuck all this bunching up shit. If you're in a public bus and you get on the bus and the bus is empty, or there are probably 2 or 3 people on the bus, and those 2 or 3 people are sitting towards the front of the bus, go sit way in the back of the bus. Alone. It ain't gonna kill you. Go sit in the back of the bus alone. It creates distance between you and the other people. As I said, if you're in a grocery store and you're standing in line, keep a distance between you and the next person. If you're in a grocery store and you're walking down aisles and you see 2 people in an aisle and you want to get something from that aisle, well, maybe you got 6 items to get out of that grocery store. Go grab the other items. Then come back to that aisle. Hopefully, those 2 people would have moved out of that aisle. Now you could go into that aisle. And you've maintained that distance. If you touch a surface, wash off your hands. If you come from outside or somewhere, wash off your hands. When washing your hands, remember this. Soap has a purpose of removing debris, dirt, from your hands. Now, dirt has a microscopic nature. It's composed of microscopic dust particles. Amongst those dust particles might be the virus. So when you wash your hands with soap and water and you get rid of those dust particles, you're also getting rid of the virus. A recommendation: create a mixture, a formula. Some bleach, some alcohol. I know there's no hand sanitizer out there, so make your own. If you look at most hand sanitizers, one of their components is alcohol. Alcohol kills things. Bleach kills things. So if you can't get hand sanitizer, combine some bleach and alcohol and some soap, and every day wash your hands with that shit. It will kill the viruses. It will erase the dust particles. Wash your hands in warm to hot water. The temperature will destroy the cell walls. And if there are any cells on your hands with viruses in them, by destroying the cell walls, it will kill the viruses, because it kills the cell, and the virus cannot exist without the cell. Simple things. Simple fucking things. If you do this, if I do this, if the next person does that, what happens? We start to reduce the incidence, the probability of communal spread. Once we start to do that, if I have the virus, and you stay 6 feet away from me, and if you wash your hands after touching any surfaces that I touched, then the probability of me spreading that virus to you is significantly diminished. What that does is the virus stops spreading. When the virus stops spreading, the number of new cases starts to go down. When the number of new cases starts to go down, then the motherfucking government stops locking me down. I know you motherfuckers like to play your video games and go on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, and you like to text each other. I don't like that shit. I know you like to watch television. I don't like that shit. I'm an active nigga. I like to do shit. I like to go places. I like to adventure. I like to expand my capabilities. I can't go to a fucking gym. I'm pissed. I can't play basketball. Hopefully when the weather gets better, I'll be able to go outside, play soccer, play quarterback, run. But I can't go to the gym. I don't want to be a fat motherfucker. I know a lot of you are fat motherfuckers, so you happy sitting at home all day feeding your fucking faces. That ain't me. So let's do our part to stop the spread of this fucking shit. We don't need the government to okay, some of you need the government to babysit you. Some of you can't use your fucking brains and you need someone to tell you what to do, when to do, how to do. That ain't me, motherfucker. I got a brain. I use it, motherfucker. I don't want no handout for the government. I want to go out there and work, earn my money. I don't want no $1,000 check, $2,000 check from the government. I want to go out there, earn my fucking money. I ain't a lazy piece of shit. So all you lazy social media, video gaming, worthless shit, fuck you. Get your shit together. Let's kill this motherfucker. So niggas like me that's about something can go back to being about something. And you lazy, worthless motherfuckers can keep being lazy. I don't give a fuck about you. But I want this shit to end. Now let me talk to the government. Mr. Government. I know you mean good. I really do. I ain't mad at you. You fucking up my life, but I ain't mad at you. You mean good. But here's a problem. Here's a problem. You politicians. You're not scientists. You're politicians. Politicians react. Politicians are not leaders. Politicians have never been leaders. They've always been reactionary. If politicians were leaders, the world would be in a much better place today. If politicians were leaders, there'd be no poor people. If politicians were leaders, there'd be no sick people. If politicians were leaders, there'd be no wars. But politicians are dumb. And politicians are reactionary. You surround yourselves with idiots who call themselves experts. Experts who can't solve a fucking problem. They say, I have my PhDs in this. They can't solve a fucking problem. MDs, medical doctors. They spend the first 2 years of medical school memorizing books. How do I know? When I was in college, a lot of my fucking friends were in med school. When I was at Howard, and I used to go down to the Howard Medical School Library to study. And a lot of my friends were in med school. A lot of them are now making hundreds of $1,000s a year as practicing physicians. So I know what is involved in medical school. My aunt is a doctor. I got all her fucking medical school books, and I've studied all of them. So I know what is involved in medicine. Doctors focus on symptoms. Doctors prescribe medicines. That is a medical practice. Surgeons cut you up and sew you back together. That is medicine. They do not innovate, devise, or create new methodologies for resolving pathological issues. They go by what they have been taught. Doctors are not innovators. Medical researchers, pharmacological researchers, biology researchers, chemistry researchers, the people you never hear about, the people you probably don't even know exist, are the ones that derive solutions. So fuck what a doctor says. Fuck what a doctor thinks. I don't care. I want to know, what does a medical researcher think? I want to know, what does a pharmacological researcher think? I want to know what a scientific researcher focused on virology, focused on cell biology, focused on pathology. I want to know, what do they think? Because that is where the solution is going to come from. So all of you networks, CNN, my fault, SNN, the Scary News Network, Fox, MSNBC, blah, 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 blah. Instead of parroting fucking doctor this, doctor that, bring me a scientist who's been doing research in immunology, in virology for the past 10 years and has published scientific papers. Bring me a researcher, a pharmacological researcher who's been researching viruses and their treatment. Bring me a medical researcher who's been researching the impact of viruses on the human body. Let them talk. Fuck a doctor. Fuck a doctor. They are not qualified to say shit about this. Because where the doctors will come into play is once a cure has been developed. Then the doctor will bring in the patient. How you feeling? Let's get your blood pressure. Let's get your heart rate. Let's get some blood samples. Let's get some tissue samples. Run them to the lab. See what's fucking with you. That's when the doctor becomes relevant. Until then, get the fucking doctors out of there. They don't know shit. This is not their theater of performance. Governments. I want to understand something. I know you're stupid. I know all you politicians are stupid as fucking shit. Even Trump with his big motherfucking brain is dumb as shit. All of you are dumb as shit. And the first thing you need to do is acknowledge that you're dumb as fucking shit. That will go a long way to saving all of us. But I want to understand. Why the fuck are you destroying your economies? Why? I can't figure it out. I cannot figure it the fuck out. Why are you destroying your fucking economies? You are shutting everything down. Everything. I can understand to an extent shutting down the airline industry. I can understand to an extent shutting down gyms, shutting down bars. I can understand that. But now you're shutting down retail establishments? Now you want to lock people down? I'm confused. I'm confused. I'm not dumb. My IQ exceeds that of a fucking genius, so I'm not dumb. And things in the world happen based on patterns. You're giving people $1,000 checks each month. For how long? If you shut down all the stores, where are they going to spend their money? The American economy is based on consumption. Consumer consumption, business consumption, government consumption. That's how money flows through the system. If you eliminate consumption, where's your fucking economy? If I can't go out there and borrow $100,000 from the bank to buy a house, if I can't go out there and borrow $50,000 from the bank, if I'm a retail establishment, I want to open a new store in a new location, and I can't borrow $50,000 from the bank, then banks cease to create money. Because every time a loan is made, the bank creates new money out of nowhere. So if banks can't create new money, then the economy ceases to grow. If people can't spend money, then the economy ceases to function. So what you're doing, government, you're not stifling the economy, you are destroying the economy. And when all is said and done, it will be extremely difficult to restore economic activity. They say recession. Fuck a recession. If this shit lasts till August, and you keep locking shit down to the point that nobody's working, no stores are functioning, no businesses are functioning, everyone's getting a handout from the government. After this shit is done, and you pull those handouts back, and you say, let's go back to normal, this country will experience a depression that will last at least 1 year. Fuck the Great Depression. The Great Depression will look like a fucking joke compared to what America will experience after this shit. Well, you say, Mo. You like to talk about problems? Everyone talks about problems. A monkey in a tree eating a banana can talk about problems. How about solutions, my nigga? Motherfucker, I got you. It is much more preferable to scale the economy down than to kill the economy. If you have an economy functioning at 50, 70% of normal capacity, it will be much easier to ramp it back up to 100% than if you have an economy functioning at 10, 20, 0%. This is what you could do. I own a restaurant. I have a venue. It has a capacity of 100 people seating because of the way I've arranged my seating, my tables, my chairs. I got a round table. I have about a foot between each person. Between tables, I have maybe 2 or 3 feet. I want to maximize capacity. Well, Mr. Government, you come to this restaurant, I say, okay, look, we ain't gonna shut you down, but we want you to reduce capacity by 50%. So if I had a round table that could seat 8 people about a foot apart, I now replace that with a long table. And with this long table, I seat people at least 4 feet apart. If I have 3 feet between the tables in my restaurant, I now make it 5 feet. So effectively, everyone in that restaurant has at least 4 feet between them. The servers, I put a glass shield in front of their faces. That glass shield means that the probability of that virus getting to them, because the server is going to come to me, can I take your order? As I'm speaking to that server, any viruses that I spit out at them hit that glass, which means the probability of that virus getting to that server is significantly diminished. I'm sitting at a table with 5 other people. They're at least 4 feet away from me. If I speak, the probability of that virus getting transmitted to them is significantly diminished. So you force restaurants to reduce their capacity by 50% and space their layout such that no 2 people are within 4 feet of each other. People in the waiting line, people in the lobby waiting to be seated, must sit at least 4 feet away from each other. If there's a line outside, enforce 4-foot distance between each person in that line. This enables And you can do the same thing in bars. This enables the hospitality industry to continue to function at reduced capacity. The restaurants may compensate by increasing their hours. If I was open 8 hours a day, I'm now open 12 hours a day. The employees of that restaurant, if I was getting 40 hours a week, now I'm only getting 30 hours a week. But that 30 hours a week is much better than getting 0 hours a week. In the kitchen, you change the stations 4 feet apart. You change the galley lanes such that no two people are within 4 feet of each other. The ventilation system within the restaurant, you spray out aerosols that disinfect. When customers are done with the table, the busboys come through, pick up all the plates, dishes, whatever, and then they disinfect that surface. They disinfect the chairs. They disinfect the carpet or the flooring under that table. It might take an additional 5 to 10 minutes to seat someone, but at least that restaurant, that bar is still operating. People are not getting infected. The business can stay in business. The employees can still earn a paycheck. Simple shit. Simple fucking shit. Airlines. In the air circulation system, which you find in all airlines, circulate an aerosol spray and a disinfectant that kills any bacteriums or viruses within that cabin. As far as airlines go, reduce capacity to about 30 to 40%. Within an aisle, maintain at least 4 feet between each passenger. So if I have an aisle here that holds 3 people, an aisle here that holds 3 people, only one person on either side. Ensure that you have at least an aisle between each passenger. So if I have aisle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I seat someone in aisle 1, nobody in aisle 2, someone in aisle 3, nobody in aisle 4. Or I could sit someone over here in aisle 1, over here in aisle 1, and then over here in aisle 2, then over here in aisle 3. Before takeoff, before you board the passengers, disinfect the entire plane. Once you land, disinfect the entire plane. When passengers get on board, have them wear masks. Have them wear gloves. This will ensure that the airline industry can continue to operate. Yes, a reduced capacity. Yes, a reduced revenue. But if I was an airline, I'd rather if I was making $10 million a month before, I'd rather make $4 million than 0. At least my employees can keep working. I could keep making money. The airports stay in business. Within the airports, you got your gates. No two planes can be parked at adjacent gates. If I got gate here, gate here, one plane parks here, one plane parks here. When you let passengers off, you let them off aisle by aisle. One passenger at a time, one passenger at a time, one passenger at a time, maintaining at least 4 to 6 feet between the passengers. If you need to, put air marshals in all these planes to ensure this is done. Put police at the gate. As soon as the passengers come out, the police say, "Oh, hold up, let that dude go. All right, come on, hold up. All right, come on, hold up, come on." A baggage claim. Instead of having people just bunch up around them carousels, have designated airport employees that go to the carousel, pick up the bags, and line them up 4 feet apart. So now you as a passenger in a line, you go down. All right, that's my bag. Now that you pick up your bags, then you go. Then the next person picks up bags. It will significantly slow things down. But at least people can still travel. Airlines can still operate. The stewardesses, the pilots, the airport employees can still work. And you, government, don't have to be giving handouts. Office buildings. Where possible, have people work from home. Where not possible, get rid of the cubes. Get rid of the cubes. Space people out. Ventilation system. Introduce aerosols. Virus-killing aerosols. Companies can still function. They don't have to go out of business. See, if I'm a big corporation and I have $5 billion in cash reserves, that's okay. 2 months, 3 months of no revenues, that's okay. If I'm a small business and I can't sell shit for 2-3 months, I'm out of business. Most of these restaurants are small businesses. Most of these bars are small businesses. Most of these retail operations are small businesses. When this is over, a lot of them are gonna go bankrupt. You are destroying your fucking economy. Destroying it. The Treasury Secretary, I can't pronounce that motherfucker's name, Mukening, whatever. He said, if we don't do nothing, there'll be 20% unemployment. What you're doing, when this is over, there'll be at least 12-13% unemployment. And it's going to stay there for a long time. Because it's going to take a long time for small to mid-sized businesses, which are the majority employer in this nation, to come back up. Think hard about what you're doing, government. Think hard. Education. You didn't have to close all these schools down. You didn't have to close down universities. You didn't have to close down high schools, grade schools. You did not. You did not. Reduce capacity. You say, I got a school with 1,000 students. If I reduce capacity by 50%, what's going to happen to the students? Rotating schedule. Half the students go to school from 7 a.m. till 2 p.m. The other half go to school from 3 p.m. till 10 p.m. Do the same with colleges and universities. Seat students away from each other. Limit or eliminate interaction between students. Students can continue learning. Professors, teachers can continue earning their money. Facilities, support staff can continue earning a wage. You are destroying the lives of people because you have an emotional instead of a reasoned reaction. Listen, government. I'm not government. I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a fucking politician. But the measures you're taking, you will never recover from. You are destroying your nations. You're destroying your economies. You're destroying your people. And I know you don't want that. But you're listening to panicked, emotional, dumb motherfuckers. Get the facts. And what are the facts? Let's talk about the facts. In the U.S., the vast, overwhelming majority of the deaths have been people over 60 years old. Why? Because, as I said, their cells do not regenerate at the same rate as younger people. That's a fact. So when they get hit with a virus, it will have that much greater an adverse impact on them than it would on a younger person. The vast majority of people who are not older, who do not have pre-existing health conditions, the vast majority of them recover. I'll say that again. The vast majority of infected people who are not elderly or ill recover. If you look at Italy, the vast majority of deaths in Italy have been older people. So what this is telling you, Mr. Government, is that this virus does not attack the immune system. It attacks the normal functioning of the body. And those who are able to regenerate sufficient cells can recover. Those who are not die. So, Mr. Government, if you're dealing with the facts, your focus should be on the elderly and the infirm. As far as containing the spread, your focus should be on enforcing social distancing. If there's a retail establishment that typically can hold 50 occupants, restrict that to 25. Put a guard outside with a clicker who counts all the people that go in. Once that clicker reads 25, nobody else goes in until someone comes out. You could go in now. Someone else comes out. You could go in now. The retail establishment should restrict the amount of time any individual spends in that store to enable other people to come in. You don't need to create ghost towns. You do not need to create ghost cities. You do not need to create a ghost fucking nation. If you're dealing with gyms, once again, limit the capacity. Now I know gyms, it's hard to move equipment around because a lot of it is bolted down. But have the people in the gym, management, whatever, stand around and say, okay, we can't have someone in that machine and that machine at the same time. So if you want to use that machine, you sit there and wait till he's done, then you can use it. The next person, they got to wait till you're done so they can use it. Increase the hours to accommodate your customers. You're going about this the wrong fucking way. Americans are going about this the wrong fucking way. And I'm telling you now, if you want a depression that you will never fucking recover from, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're fucking doing. If you want to manage this and maintain your economy at 50% capacity, change your attitude, change your approach. This is not the end of the world unless you want it to be. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the elongated video, but things had to be said. Things had to be said. You may choose to listen, you may choose not to. It's on you. But these are the facts. Once again, thank you. God bless. And fuck coronavirus.